Hello and welcome back. So this time I'm going to be painting this 66 looking machine, which is basically a 66. It's a Spartan. They only made for a couple of years, but love them. And I had a couple people ask about showing more of how I mask. And so I'm just going to give you a quick little thing. This is just a little shrinky tube that I've put up here, and I'm going to put a little piece of tape at the top. Anywhere in the cavity that I don't want paint, I put grocery bags. So like here at the bottom, I have shoved one up inside of that cavity there, and then taped over the end of that vertical shaft that I did not remove. And I'll be putting more in here and trying to push it so that, if possible, it comes up around where the shaft is. On other machines where there's a hole back here, it's a lot easier. But basically I like to try to push that bag up so it kind of covers where the main shaft is, so that if any paint does happen to get through the holes, it's going to be fine. And I'm going to cover up where this point back is, but I want to be able to paint this collar part of the little casting there too. Same thing in here. I'm going to put a bag in there and cover up this whole area and get that done. And remember, I did not take the lifter lever off, so I'm going to mask around that. And another thing is, I want to make sure that this is really clean before I even put my primer coat on. So even though I've got her out, you know, as finishly stripped as she's going to get, this is a, what is this, a 2000 grit sanding sponge. And I just take it over everything, and that'll knock any of the residual little loose crumminess out before I get to the point that I need to wipe it down. And I will wipe it down this time, you know, it's just a microfiber cloth. But I also will use a microfiber cloth that is clean with window cleaner, glass cleaner, to give it one last clean before I start painting. So let me go ahead and get all of this masked off, and I'll show you how it goes. Okay, one more view. So this is her pretty well masked up, and you can see I've got my little silicone plugs in all of her little threaded orifices. If it's a hole that's strictly an access port and having tolerances exact isn't a big deal, I don't plug it. Like this is only so I can get a screwdriver in there, okay? So that's fine, that is fine. This screw I am never taking out, and I doubt anyone ever will, so I am painting over that. And same with up here. This is never coming out as long as I shall live, so I'm just painting over that also. If you want to mask over it, that is fine. And same with this. This is a little cap that I guess technically I could tap out, but I don't see the point because I don't need to remove it to get the needle bar out. And so I am painting over it too. Ooh, I see a little hole I missed right there. So anyway, I wanted to show you that this is what she is looking like right now. And I'm going to go ahead and finish doing a little bit of masking on her wheel and her bobbin winder, and then we're going to get started getting some, oh my gosh, look at my dog's gut in the paint booth. What are you doing in there? Anyway, I'll get some primer on her soon. Okay, so in here I'm going to be painting her bottom with a coat of primer first. Let that dry for about 5 minutes, then tip her down and primer the rest of her. And we have her little wheel guard, bobbin winder, and down here the wheel. So generally my process is I will give the bottom a coat, and after it is dry enough, then I flip it over and I give the top a coat, okay? And I just kind of keep doing that with each successive layer of paint. It works for me, you know. If it doesn't work for you, that's fine. So I am using a self-etching primer on her. This metal is odd to me. It has the feel of aluminum, but in parts, it's like it's very much iron. I don't know if it's some weird alloy or something. I don't know. But I'm going to treat it as if it's all aluminum just to be safe, and that's why I'm using the self-etching primer. Okay, so I've got a really good coat on. I only need one really good coat. And I'm going to let this dry for about 10 minutes or so. And then I'm going to get started getting, oops, her color enamel put back on. Put it back in there. So far, so good. Okay, so I have the first coat on, which is a white enamel. Now I'm going to be going for kind of an antique-y, slightly modeled kind of look, kind of like old stone. So this is the first one, which is the good base coat. The next one's going to be a little bit different. Okay, so I want to show you, I'm using these two paints, all right? Just plain old 2X Rust-Oleum. Now if you're using these, be very careful how you spray, because it's 2X because it comes out of this spout like gangbusters. So be aware of how far away you are when you spray. But what I'm trying to do is kind of get a rock, marble, antique-y kind of a look. So I had a really good base coat of this. And then what I did, and I'll show you in a second, is I came back and put a fine mist of this over, you know, from far away, kind of like an overspray type mist. And then over that, came and put another fine mist of this over, because I want it to look kind of natural. So I'm not sure with the camera and the light if you can see. It's white, but it's not. It's got some texture to it. Well, not texture, but variation, I guess is the word I'm looking for. So the same with the machine. You know, it's got some light and shadow, which is what I wanted. I don't even know if this camera is picking it up. Maybe right in there you can see a little bit more. But I like it. I like the look. I think it's very soft. It's not really extreme. So I'm going to need to let this dry for a couple days, and then we're going to get started on her decals, which are going to be lovely. Okay, so it is later on, and I have switched out stuff in my shop here. As you can see, I've got the motor housing here. I have, you know, packed out and masked off everything so that nothing critical is going to get painted. But I am painting the switch too, because I want this entire thing to be light, and this was a whole lot of blackness up against my light colored machine. So this is all metal. So again, I used the self-etching primer and then the same amount of paint that I did on the other machine. For the light sconce kind of thing, this was Bakelite. And so instead of a self-etching primer, I used the adhesive primer that works really well on plastic, which happens to be white. So I've got that painted also, and the little bracket. So at this point, now I feel pretty confident that it's going to look really nice. So I'm just going to walk away, and I will be back up here in a couple days. Hello and welcome back. So I'm going to get started decaling this little machine, and really I'm only going to be putting decals on the machine itself and the wheel. And I want to show you, this is the pattern. It's lovely. And so the first thing I'm going to do is start cutting around, just leaving, you know, a few millimeters or so around all of the little edges here so I can get started. So give me a minute. Let me get these things cut out here. Actually, I'm going to cut it into a big section first, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I'm going to get started with her little decal for her bed here. Lovely. There is a little access hole here that it's going to be going over, but my thing is once the decal is completely dry, then I kind of cut that out. So I've got a little tub of water with a few drops of dish soap in there just for funsies. I'm going to get this set up on here, get that bubble pumped. I want to line it up so it's centered on that column, which you cannot see. Okay. And I think that is pretty good. So I'm actually going to move the entire thing down just a little bit so that I can push the decal up off the top. So as soon as it wants to release, any moment now, there we go. She's going to go up, and I want to line up this with the center of that column. And as soon as it is in that place, then I can hold the top and hopefully, this is a big one, pull this paper out the bottom. All right. And getting extra water on here so I can maneuver her, smooth her a bit. I want to make sure that this line is straight. And that's looking pretty good to me. So I am going to go ahead and get a clean cloth. Okay, a clean microfiber cloth here. Let me just remove some of that water from above and below. And if she wants to move, I know you can't see that. Sorry about that. Get her shifted here. Okay, I like that position. So now while I'm holding it in place, just gently wiping. Not hard because I don't want to damage the decal. Okay, I think that is pretty good to get started. So what I'm going to be doing on the wheel is I got these two curved pieces and I'm going to be putting them on like that. And the rest of the flowers are just going all over the place. I have one of these on and I want to show you this because this is a tricky shape. It's really, really a tricky shape. And because of that, there's only certain types of shapes that can fit in here because not only does it go around, but it goes down at the same point. And getting the wrinkles out, that's always tricky. So I'm going to work on this one a little bit. But what you need to do is say, this is my shape. I'm going to need to come in here, and before I even put it on, put a few little clips in interesting places, like that, so that as it wants to curve in, those can kind of overlap in a way. Actually, I'm going to take some more of this off. The less decal surface area you have, the better, okay? So that way when this goes in and all of this wants to kind of curve together, instead of wrinkling as much, it can just kind of overlap itself. At least that's the goal. So there's that one. Let me go ahead and get this side put on over here. Okay, so there we go. I think that is lovely. So I'm just going to set that aside for a little bit. And I wanted to show you a tricky place on machines is this area because it's basically a ball and it is so hard to find a decal that's going to work there. So what I did is basically these are a smaller size of the one that I have on the wheel. And because they're kind of curved themselves, again, I'm going to put some little strategic clips, but with one of these on each side here, I should be able to get these little guys to fit on that curve. And as far as where I get my decals, I basically print them up myself. So if you've never heard of it, there's a website called canva.com, fabulous. And a lot of images are free, but if you get the pro, did you see what I just did? That's just water, it's okay. But if you get the pro subscription, if I could speak, you get access to a lot of beautiful images, and that's where I get all of this from. I cannot recommend getting that pro membership enough. No, I'm not sponsored, but oh my gosh, if you do anything creative, it's so handy. I can't even tell you. So anyhow, let me get a towel because this puddle is dripping on me. I still have a lot of water in my dish. It's just kind of going on the floor here now. But so far she's looking beautiful. I have a few more roses to put on. I don't want to overburden her with roses, but I think that she's lovely, lovely. I'm debating what to do on the back because she's going to have a big motor here and a big light here. So these two areas are going to be covered, okay? But she does look so bare. So without anything there and there, that only leaves the plate. And so I'm toying with the idea of putting a couple roses down here. I don't like it to be too symmetrical on something that I want to be this natural-ish. So I don't know that I'm going to be putting them there. I might just kind of wrap around the column and do a little bit on the sides of the plate. Let me play with it for a minute. Okay, I've pretty much finished her, I think, as far as decaling. And at this point, they're very fragile. I want these to dry so that I can clear coat her later, but I need to make sure all the water underneath and everything is totally evaporated. So this is what she's looking like. I decided to put a Spartan amount of decals on the bed itself. But I just kind of wrapped the roses around this up here because I'm going to have light here and motor here. But then down there, fairly plain base, but that's still pretty. And then come back around here. And then don't forget that this is going to be the wheel, which is lovely. So I'm going to put all this back into my paint booth to dry for another day or so before I do the clear coat. And I will be using my Finish 1 with hardener on her. She definitely can use it. And so next time I see you, we'll be back in the booth. Good morning and welcome to the next day. So as you can see, I'm getting ready to clear coat this girl. And what I decided to do is use a little bit of shimmer in her clear coat. And I'm going to be adding just a touch of this papaya colored mica powder. Not a whole lot, just a little bit, so when it catches the light just right, there'll be a bit of a colorful shimmer that way. I just think that that'll be, you know, a little bit of something because it's very stony, very antique-y, very matte. And at this point, I feel like it just needs a little bit of something extra. So let me finish getting all of this together. And I am using my Finish 1, and it is a 4-to-1 ratio, so I use usually 2 ounces of this and half an ounce of the hardener, and usually that'll work for a machine. This is a smaller machine, but I do have the I almost said engine, motor and light housing to paint too, so I think we'll be okay. So I'm going to mix up probably just over that my usual amount, not a lot, just a little bit over, just to make sure I have plenty. So I've got it all mixed up, not a whole lot, just enough, I think that's good. And I will be using my little strainer funnel before I pour that into my gun, just, you know, so if you're worried, don't worry, I will be good. I have just a bit of lacquer thinner in my gun. I'm going to run that through real quick just to make sure it's cleaned out before I pour this in. I'm not going to show you all of that because honestly it's a little too noisy and messy with the air compressor and everything. So I'm putting on my mask and I'm going to go ahead and get started. Okay, so I'm back over here. I've done the clear coat and I feel like this should be, it's time to talk about what did not go right today, because every single time I do a project, there is something that doesn't work. And, you know, if it's a devastating problem, well, then I'll redo the entire thing. And I don't think it was this time. What happened this time was a couple things. First, one of the decals apparently did not stick very well. And so, let me get another glove, hang on a sec. And so when the clear coat went onto it, it totally crinkled up, you know, which isn't the end of the world. It does kind of give an antique-y looking finish. Oh, putting gloves onto sweaty hands is a problem. And it is one of the decals on the back, and I'll show it to you, so that's not a big deal. And the other problem was, apparently, you know, I didn't have my nozzle screwed in tight, which is odd, because I keep this handy on my desk so I can, you know, it's the appropriate size to deal with nozzle issues. But because the nozzle wasn't in tight enough, apparently, my gun sputtered. And so I was painting the, can't even think now, the wheel guard. And so it got a bunch of big drippy clear coat on it, which again is not the end of the world. And I don't think I'm gonna strip it and repaint it just because of that drippy clear coat. But at the same time, it's like, man, and I think that, you know, I mentioned it on my little venting video, that that's kind of the nature of all of this. They're all one of a kinds. They're all going to have little idiosyncrasies. But it will be fabulous. And I'm gonna stand on that. So let me finish cleaning up this gun, get her put away, and I will show you what she looks like. Okay, so I have my wheel, I've got my little light, motor housing, light cover, bobbin winder. Here's my drippy mess. Oh well, I'm hoping the bobbin winder itself will kind of cover up that drip some, you know. And here is the machine. There was one other thing that happened I want to show you. See if you can see. You see those black specks? I don't know where they came from. Before I clear coated this, I came in, wiped everything down again with microfiber cloths, did a really close eyeball check to make sure everything looked good, turned on the gun, and these little black specks right here appeared. Oh well. But she's looking beautiful. From the front, ignore the black specks, she looks beautiful. But over here, I want to show you what I was talking about with the decal. And it's just this one. And is it minor? Yes. But do you see how it's wrinkling? Right there? What I believe is that that part of that decal did not stick as well as it should have to, there you can see the wrinkle better there, to the machine. So that then when I came with the clear coat, some of the clear coat got under the decal and caused the wrinkling. And there's just a hair of that up here near that porthole that I need to clean out. Once the clear coat is dry, it's going to act like a rock hard glue. So the decal's not going to come off. It's just frustrating. But taking all of that out, she's beautiful. And I think she's going to be a great machine. And I don't know if you can see, but there is that really slight bit of pearl, that papaya mica pearl on there. And it is really pretty, and I'm glad I did that. So anyhow, that's her. I'm going to let her dry for probably close to a week before I start putting her back together. So next video, we will be doing that. Hope you liked it, and I'll see you then. Bye-bye.